They give you the study,
Yeah.
and then they show you like different things that, some like something that could happen 20 years from now, but other things are more short term that make sense to do more, quickly to get things in place. And you formulate this plan, like we did things like, we had concerts downtown, so we had like a pavilion, for outdoor festivals, Bluegrass Festival, whatever, we did that. So we had to have a place for main stage. It gets used probably 6 times a year, but that's a place where people can gather. They have like homeless shelter fundraisers at that same spot, different activities, and it's downtown. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention it.
So
it's a good idea.
if that is,
Go on.
so I guess we just need to discuss it. If you bring them on, they are an employee of
The DDA.
the DDA. So we would have to completely do the hiring process.
Yes.
Rhonda, is that something that would have to be approved by the council?
I think with your bylaws, since you are spending your funds, I think it would have to be approved, yeah.
And that's the thing about it, it's even like this money here, it's gotta be all approved by the council on how it's spent. And there's, so I personally don't think that the city's got a lot of things that they gotta spend money on and get in order. And that's another $60,000 to $70,000 a year that.
But that's not, this isn't the city's money, this is the DDA's money.
It's the DDA money that the city has allowed the DDA to have.
Well, and that's the only thing with the
That's
funding
correct.
too, it's, the funding source has been,
Funding source and even the money that's in it outside the 10%, the city is going to use, has got other plans for it than just to let the DDA spend it on.
Well, the city,
I mean, first of all, this $400,000 will probably go to bathrooms downtown.
well, that's not correct. The city, the funding that's in that's in the DDA account belongs to the DDA, it does not belong to the city.
Is it in a specific account for the
so
DDA?
the way it's divided now, it's earmarked for the DDA, yeah.
It's specific
We
to
never
the DDA.
opened a specific checking account yet for the DDA, but it's
It's in a separate
in a separate fund
Yeah.
for the
That's
DDA.
But it's a fund that cannot be accessed by the city.
Yeah, it has been earmarked over the past 4 years for the DDA.
But the city can't use it for whatever projects it wants to.
Yeah, we would want to work with you guys on projects.
That's correct. However, if you look at the quote bylaws of the DDA and the city, the funding that's in the DDA's account is the DDA's money. The city can't just start pulling money out of it for its own projects. By law, they can't.
Well, and that is, yeah, you're right. But I guess my point with the funding though is that it has been limited because we're taking, the majority of your funding came from parking and now it's coming from, hotel motel. So it's going, so you only have a certain amount, and I would be cautious to getting projects in place first and, making sure you have a direction before bringing in a.
Would the city be
DDA.
open to having UGA or Carl Vinson or whatever come in and do
We've
a
had,
study?
we've had them come in before, I mean, I'm sure. it's
Why
just-
don't we follow any of that? that they
We are actually we're implementing right now part of the study they did on parking. We're implementing the limited parking and we found other spaces. So yeah, I mean, over the years we've had things
Okay.
like that. And so it's just a matter of implementing that final phase, which was East and West Main, which we're doing. So
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you find a project that you feel like needs a comprehensive study, you could certainly, if that's where you wanted to use.
Oh, no, I just want to see direction where everybody can get on board and actually get things accomplished.
Yeah,
Instead of,
100%. And we have certainly, I think even the city hiring a city administrator is a huge step because it's like you guys, we are a board and we're a council, but we need someone to implement and lead the city, and that's where Eric is really taking a huge step for us. But that was for us also a huge step financially
Do you know when the last study was done as far as parking?
My goodness, well, we've had smaller studies over the
Yeah.
years. You know, every couple of years we have a parking meeting.
Okay,
We've had Carl Vincent, they looked at it, we've had, Angie was on board, we've had actually independent parking companies come in and give us an evaluation.
well, I remember when Angie was on board, quite a bit got done with parking lot
Yeah,
design, so.
yeah. So we've actually made huge strides with parking.
Is there anything that the city is doing right now to put together a strategic plan for the city?
So, I'll let you, yes.
So I've only been here for 3 weeks, okay? So what we're going to be putting together is a capital improvement program that's going to look at all the infrastructure and put together a funding plan with that. So we'll be working with the DDA as part of that. I think it may be premature looking to hire a director right now. You know, we've got a new council, a new mayor. We're trying to put together plans in place, so just give us a little time in order to put that in place. And then we certainly want your input on all these projects. But I think there's a lot of cooperation that we can have between the city and the DDA to get some of these projects
Oh,
And
I,
that's-
I agree with that, and I don't necessarily disagree with your assessment on the director. I just know that as a director can help you, almost like having a city administrator. Basically, they operate the same way. So, but to tell you the truth, we don't have enough project going on right now to do that. At some point, I think we will, but not yet. So, but I do believe that the DDA shouldn't be the one to come up with its own strategic plan. I think it should mirror the strategic plan that the city has. So the city needs to have that strategic plan. That
That's what I was
5,
saying,
10,
is everybody
15-year,
Exactly.
20-year plan that is adopted and followed by the city and goes beyond just the 4-year political cycle. It's something the city moves towards and grows towards.
And we certainly,
And I'd like to see that happen before we sit down and do, because it
I
should
agree.
mirror where the city's going.
yeah, I agree with you on that. I think we need to do that. And, you know, and not to say that the city's not had a plan, even with our water department, it has a 1-year, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year
Yeah.
plan. We've got, you know, infrastructure, we're working on that with, even with the streets. So it's just a matter of kind of combining it all together and creating an overall strategic plan for the city. And they have been introduced over the years. Carl Vincent Institute even helped us with that. I think it's just a matter of pulling it all back out, getting, you know, and really revising, just like with the Northwest Regional Commission, the meeting we were at last week. You know, you look at the goals in that for the county, and they changed so much, because a lot of that was focused on tourism and bringing in tourism, and I looked at it and I said, you know, this really, I think we've accomplished most of these things, and I think our needs have changed, and I think as a city too, even from where we had worked on this several years ago, the needs have changed. So, and even with the strategic plan, like I was just saying, they're going to change, because your
Yeah.
needs in your community change.
But you
Oh,
gotta start
But
somewhere.
it needs to be in place.
My thing is, I just want to see everyone actually get on board on the same page and move towards common goals, because that has not been accomplished in
Yeah, and I
a
think
long
you
time.
guys have to kind of piggyback off us and
Yeah.
for what we're doing, because if our goals are opposite, it's
Correct.
not going to work. So we've all got to
Well,
work
the
together.
DDA shouldn't have goals in opposition to where the city's going.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Well, the boundaries are very small in this town, that's one of the difference, and,
Look at it.
I mean, we've had two things in the city that the city has needed for years. That's bathrooms, and that's the parking solution. So, we're hopefully gonna have a lot of, work towards the
Wasn't there a
parking.
plan at one point by the depot to make a pedestrian overpass over the train there along with bathrooms? That
No,
never-
there was a plan to make a 2-story bathroom that was train level and then street level on each main street.
Oh, okay.
That was the proposal that was
Okay.
done.
And we're
2
actually
years ago.
we have been working on a revision to that plan. We've talked and met with the Northwest Regional Commission. They have a grant now that's, it is COVID-based, and right now, you can apply to the end of the year. They said it could go away at any point, so it's, good to get started on this very quickly. But basically, with the needs of, since COVID, it would allow a 70-30 split. But you have to offer workspace, whereas before, we were looking at the bathroom to have a visitor area
Right.
for chamber or different organizations. But Ms. Art did meet with Rick LaRosa, who designed the original, and he just actually did send a new one that has, he needs to incorporate more the work space in it, and I don't know if at that point you can rent the space to individuals or if it's offered free of charge, but it would be a great opportunity for us to get on that. So I've spoken to Delmos, and I know you have too, about getting this project going, and we would love to work with you guys on that as well.
Well, the DDA, you know how I feel about bathrooms.
Oh, yeah, it's a necessity.
If we could have it done tomorrow, I'd do it.
Yeah.
But the DDA does have access to certain kinds of financing that the city does not.
Yeah.
That we can go after, maybe some alternative forms of financing for the bathroom project without spending $400,000.
Yeah.
Well, that would be good.
You know what I'm talking
Yes, I
about?
Oh, yeah.
That's what the DDA is for, basically, is to be able to find those alternative forms of financing that the city can't do, to do those kind of
And
projects.
then, and then
Grants
it
would
goes
be
back to
better.
that if they have their plan in place, and if we bring that director on, that's what they do. They hunt,
Yeah.
while all of us do other things.
But there might be, until we have someone like that, we may be able to avail ourselves to, I think you have people in the city who actually do that kind of thing too. We just have to refocus them on maybe a DDA type of funding source
Search.
versus city search. Do you see what I mean?
And I think, like Eric said, once you guys get ready for that, you may even want to look at, if you do decide to move forward with that, getting someone part-time instead of jumping into full force because of limited funds. So if you do eventually do that.
One question.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do bathrooms, you know, for God's sake, and insulate them so they don't freeze.
Yes, and I feel like there's so many areas where we can focus on working together. I know Laura has been really into historical preservation, and we've talked a lot about that with this community and how the business district has affected more residential areas, the joining and making sure. So I know there are things that we can do together, and like even with that, creating ordinances with new construction, and I know the DDA can do that as well, in creating a certain design for downtown, so we don't have odd buildings popping up.
Well, that's what you don't want. You don't,
Yeah,
what you want to have happen is basically have an ordinance that says anybody who's building or doing anything in that central business district.
Yeah.
Before they do that, it has to go through the historical preservation.
yeah. And I think that's something you guys can
Yes.
Yeah, you design
get more so
guidelines.
than we can.
Yeah, you have design guidelines, you have historical preservation, but I mean, eventually to understand what your process is for that.
Mhm.
Is it planning commission to zoning board to, and then for council approval, once it goes through those, you can put all that in place.
And there's examples of those in other cities in Georgia. They have historical preservation guidelines and ordinances that builders have to go through.
One question I have, as you guys were talking, and forgive me, because again, it's my second meeting, but like, from the communication standpoint between the city and the DDA, like if there's current projects or things that the city's working on, how do we?
I think that's where Angie comes in, because she is the council person, so it's really, and she can bring it back to us and get it there. I think that's a great, don't you
So I
think
didn't
that's the
even
best way?
understand that yet,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's my second
Yeah,
meeting.
because
so I
her-
In terms of
apologize.
how we work together,
I apologize. It's just kind of like, if they had projects, if the city has
Yeah.
projects and there's things that we can help them do,
Yeah.
and
Right,
we can
and
help push things.
so
through
Angie's
as
the
DDA.
one.
well,
Yeah.
that's what we're set up to do.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
why we're here.
And
basically.
so, and by the rule,
I just wasn't sure how that.
she's the appointed elected member. Obviously, all the rest of us are volunteer. She's the elected member that is required to serve. We'll always have an Angie, somebody. She only signed it for a year.
We always have somebody from the city council.
Oh,
sitting
city
on it.
council.
But I feel like that is the best way for information. to be
100%, I think
passed.
it's great, like we had a city manager, like when I was on that DDA board, that city manager was part of the board. But, yeah, city council member or whatever,
Yeah.
I was just curious, I didn't know that.
That is a good idea to skip.
Now I know.
We've not
Stop.
changed
Eric,
the
you can
bylaws.
pick up after you're.
Anyway, I'll be quiet, just trying to figure it all out.
You don't have to be
No,
quiet.
you don't have to be, that's the point, I mean, I think it's a good idea. If we can get
One of the
aligned.
reasons why I thought it was a great idea to have you on the board was because of your experience in Cartersville.
Well, some people, you know, again, I just know that's just one example. It's not like, every city's different, every city needs to grow differently, you know what I mean?
And ours will be different too.
I just want what's best for Blue Ridge at the end of the day,
I think
you know?
all of us do.
Yeah, for the future, and where we're gonna be in 5 years, you know, where we're gonna be in 10 years.
I'll be retired.
And hopefully, you know, it'll grow into that, like he was saying, I'm just thinking about money always, because there's just so much
Sure.
money that we need, DDA needs, city needs, I mean, just a lot, but, you know, so maybe if you did do it, maybe part-time would be better to ease into it than maybe, but then again, it's, you know,
We can, I mean, we just have to see,
I think we do.
once we get with you guys on how you're laid out, and you're working on that now. And then we can see then how that goes, and then put our project thing kind of into motion with it. And then we can work from there, because I think eventually if we do have that person here, working with them every day, then we're gonna always be on board with one another. And then we can start helping, like he could come, we could get some help to find things that, for the city that only the DDA can provide at that point.
It's just another avenue to gain funding, additional funding for
Absolutely.
projects that you don't have to come out of city budget.
And the other thing that we can do, what the city can do, because the city, when they approve the 1% from the hotel motel tax, there's I think a maximum of 2%, and they originally said they wanted to start us out at 1%. But since the city's taking parking revenue now, it might be a good idea to take that to 2% versus 1%.
We'll build from that.
if we could get some free money for the bathrooms.
It's not free money.
No, I'm talking about if we can get some grant money, which is somewhat, you know, still got to do our match, but if we could get some
Yeah, but
grant money for the bathrooms.
you're exactly right. The nice thing about that too is, at least the 1% shows income coming in. So if we have to take a loan out, for instance, to do it, we show, we have money coming in.
What's the interest rate that these can get? Is it really like 1-2% or?
I have no idea. I've never gone after a loan yet. And I'm not even sure the loan's the right way to go. There might be other ways to go that are less expensive.
So who
The
is-
bottom line is that the more money we show coming in, the better off we are in terms of getting
Yes, yeah.
financing and other things, which would make it better for us to have 2% versus 1%.
So who in
Since we no longer
who in
have
the
parking.
city is the one that's doing that search for you as far as, for like looking for grant money or looking?
Well, right now, the Northwest Regional Commission, they have people who help us, and they
We
have,
coordinate with them.
yeah, so we are working with them on that, and they do this free of charge, except at a certain point, once it gets past phase 1, you can pay them a certain percentage, which is a lot less than an independent grant writer. So we are definitely wanting to take advantage of that, where we really haven't much in the past. We've hired individual grant writers, and they're available, and they want to help us with these things, so.
Would that be who we would look to?
We can look there. I think there's also some that we can go to from the Georgia Municipal Association, also from the Georgia Cities Foundation. So there's lots of places that are willing to help you. We just have to find them and grab them.
Yeah, and this, we are, of course, a part of the GMA, and the Northwest Regional Commission, different things. So,
And the GMA puts on a lot of the seminars and things that are out there that you can go to and learn more about how to finance.
yeah,
things.
DCA, there's so many.
So we just have to avail ourselves of that kind of stuff. The biggest issue I think right now we have as a DDA is we're ignorant of where to find those resources and how to grab them. Because once we learn that and get that, I think these kind of projects get easier to do.
Demolition committee.
Stick our nose in there and see what we can do. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Don't open your mouth.
No, you're good. So, but we're moving to the next line, so.
It's good.
All right, so, is there any public comment outside of, I mean, we'd all just be kind of talking, which I kind of like, being able to discuss things. Question?
Russell, I'd like to say something. I'm Dr. Ann Merkel, and I'm on the Business Association Board. And I used to serve as the director or chair of an Economic Development Commission in Union County, North Carolina. And also chamber president in Union County, North Carolina. So I have a background in this too, and like you, one of the things we decided as an Economic Development Commission, which is different than the DDA in the sense that we were looking at what was best for the cities within our county, but our job was to not only, you know, work on bringing tourism and supporting the cities, which is what you guys do, but also to interview and bring in clean economic, you know, vital businesses to our county. And that, you know, that is a suburb of Charlotte. So, and it's the highest per capita county in North Carolina. So we were busy. But, you know, we did decide to get a director or a manager, and it really worked for us because when people are out there writing grants, they're looking for the matching money. And so they don't, you know, it takes a little money to make a little bit of money. But, you know, it is a talent, and it's not something that any of the volunteers want to do. But I also have a real strong interest just in economic development, seeing Blue Ridge go in the direction that we as residents want it to go in, and keeping it from turning into the horror story that the small town that I lived in North Carolina turned into. Because after a while, the big boxes came to town, and the highway just made a big gap through the middle of town. And we had a cute little quaint railroad right through the middle of the town. We used to have the same kind of parades up and down Main Street and, you know, around the railroad track. We were bringing in great restaurants. We got liquor by the drink. You know, we did all the stuff that I've seen happen here. And then they dropped the ball and dropped the vision and didn't put in the rules. And now it's just a traffic jam. It's lost its charm. It's lost its you know, historic value. It's lost the good restaurants. You know, it's not a tourist mecca anymore. It's part of the highway going through. So not that Blue Ridge set away from 515 is going to do that, but there are a lot of things that we have to be careful of. Also, remember Gatlinburg, cute little city. You know, it's been around for years and years, but then, you know, it's been annexed by Pigeon Forge, which is commercialism. You know, if that's what you want Blue Ridge to be, then that's an option. But a lot of people want to come here for the forests, the nature, the trout fishing, the lakes, and to be in a gentle environment, not being bombarded by 5G EMFs. And that's where I really want to put some energy too. As a doctor, I've been studying the impact of 5G for 10 years, you know, knowing it was coming, and the health effects. And it is very serious. And I can tell you that Steamboat Springs has had a lot more COVID cases. It's a larger city than Blue Ridge, and they have a lot of people coming in for skiing and everything. But even during the close down, some of our best friends live in Steamboat, and they were having some big numbers of COVID. And there's a direct correlation between the 5G and virus replication, et cetera. So that's kind of the input I'd love to be part of. I've already talked to the county commissioner, and I talked with Mayor Whitener several years ago, and she said, well, get a petition to keep 5G out. Well, you know, but we need to inform people of what we're doing, especially for people that work in downtown and who live here. And at the same time, I've participated in all these events that the BRVA has run for years, and we do need Wi-Fi in downtown. We need stuff for the festivals. So there has to be a good area in between. So that's my interest in being on a committee. I don't have property in Blue Ridge City, but I'd be happy to bring my 2 cents worth to a committee.
I think that's great, and I think environmental protection as well as the historic integrity of our community, I think that is very important to the value, not only to the local residents, but the people that want to come vacation here.
Thanks, Ann.
Do you think sometimes that when a place gets discovered by like Blue Ridge got discovered by the average person all over America, that attracts in big developers and such as, like the box stores and, just bigger development, and it kind of changes the small, just like it did in Pigeon Forge and so many places.
Not if you control it. And another thing that we've got our neighboring counties and states fighting against is the crypto mining. You don't know what that is. This is serious business here. We do not want that in Fannin County.
I think they have it in Union County, don't they?
They have it they've been fighting it in Cherokee and in Clay, and it's very dangerous for the health. It has horrible sound effects. It drains the electric system out of a community, and that jacks up electric costs for the residents. And EMFs are horrible. And all it is, it's the way the cryptocurrency is played with on a system of computers to come up with certain algorithms and create more currency that people can buy into. It's all artificial, but it does horrible things to
Are
the
you a
environment.
medical doctor? What is your doctorate in?
I have a doctor of naturopathic medicine.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and I have a PhD, so I do research.
Yeah, I understand. I was just wondering what your doctorate was in.
I'm not a pill pusher.
Okay.
But I deal in chronic health conditions.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I think absolutely it attracts those people. But that's why you have a county commission and a city council. They're the ones that decide who gets to build what, right?
Well, if you were not at the meeting we had at the Northwest Regional Commission, we three were there, and they were giving statistics about Fannin County, and Fannin County is the second highest in Georgia below Rayburn, is that correct?
I think so.
And in vacant homes, meaning second homes or vacation rentals, and when we've been discovered, it's a problem to some degree, because infrastructure, can we keep up with even our road systems? Can we, the city council has actively looked at keeping our downtown area and the C1, C2 areas very plain, because we don't want the big buildings downtown like the hotel. We want to keep them smaller, so we reduced that to 35 feet. And, in an effort, and actually we're looking right now, we're going to make some recommendations to the planning commission on other things that will help keep our downtown area, the central business district, so that this, it can't happen with loopholes. So we are looking through all that right now, and we'll present changes. But it's just interesting to me that at that meeting, when the statistics were given, and you were there too. Yeah, you were there too. That we have that many vacant second homes, pretty much, because they're not there, that the census can't count them as full time. So that's a huge number, and I think that was conservative. What do you think?
I agree with that, and the disconcerting thing to me, there were a couple things, is when you look at the vacant homes, or what they refer to as vacant, when you look at rental properties, a lot of times the renters are driving things in this community, and I understand the importance of tourism, but I have to be careful how I say this.
I know, I know.
When you're looking at changing ordinances based off of answering calls that are primarily to rental units, that affects me as a permanent resident here, affects all of us here as permanent residents. And that concerns me, and I see that sometimes on the city level and a lot of times on the county level, that decisions that are being made in our governments right now are more strongly focused toward making sure everything goes okay with tourism and the rental units, and then the citizens actually lose out. That's my term. To back up what she said, the next startling fact that they presented in their presentation was population trends. And nobody will answer this question for us. I guess I should write them direct, but they showed Fannin County, and Fannin County goes up to, they don't give you the full view of the chart. So Fannin County goes up to like 28,000, and it looks like this is just after 2020. And then the population trend goes down. It starts decreasing. So somebody explain to me, explain to me why we're going to be losing population
I
in
think
this
it's
county.
because the majority of people that are buying up here are retirees.
Right, and then they die.
You don't lose,
I don't wanna say that. Pretty much.
I think you lose more population because you've got more vacant houses. You've got more rental units. Because people aren't going to want to put up. I mean, I live in between two rental units right now, and one of them's got a hot tub on my side, you know, and that comes with a whole plethora of interesting things to deal with.
One that's not
Yeah,
supposed
I think you know, the city and the county both are gonna have to work. You know, the growth is going to come. You've got to try to stay out in front of it with rules and regulations. You have to
But our
remember,
county
most
has
of these
no zoning.
people that are buying second homes here, they're not coming from a town the size of Blue Ridge. They're coming from Atlanta, they're coming from Nashville, they're coming from usually a lot of larger cities. They're coming to a smaller, from South Florida, whatever. They're used to rules. More rules than Rhonda and the council could do in a lifetime. You know, they live in neighborhoods that tell them how high their mailbox can be. They tell them all these things. So the people that are coming up here, they're used to rules.
But you've got to separate those people into two groups. The people who come here as a permanent resident and the people who invest in a property to make money. Because
Well,
those
you
are
have to have
different.
rules on where those can be and things like that, but if you put rules in place that says, for example, your interesting vision you get occasionally with your neighbor in the hot tub, you could have rules in place that basically put them in a position where those have to be